So you're Loretta Evans. You were a personal trainer and a bodybuilder for a number of years. You
Right.
started your career in the 90s, late 90s, or late 80s or
Actually, it
90s.
was the around 1989.
89.
I mean, yeah, 89. I started really working out after I had Troy, and I was at Dennis Nelson's in Redwood City, and there was a lady, this woman Jackie. She was really awesome, you know, and I watched her train people. And at this time, I was working out, and I noticed that people starting to ask me, even when I have a sweatsuit on, if I worked out. And I was going, wow, how can they tell, you know? And so with Jackie, I found her, I asked her questions about what she does and whatever, and she told me about being a personal trainer. And so I started, I asked her for places I could go to learn the skill, you know. And there weren't many places in those days there weren't personal trainer certifications and all that. So I had to go, I went to Hayward State, and I took courses like physiology, you know, biomechanics, kinesiology, and I went to sports therapy sessions for physical therapists. They had classes, you know, that I could go to, you know, and so I learned a lot from that, you know. So I just found different places that I can go to just to learn more and more about the body, about what personal training is all about. And personal training was all coming about very differently than later when I was training. I started at Dennis Nelson, I started to get, you know, one person training one person. I have clients that I've had for almost 40 years.
Wow.
You know, so some of them are still working with me. But as things progressed myself, you know, I really worked out and really tried to let people know that weight training is the same for women as it for men. There's really not any difference. It's a matter of learning that women can't get bulked the way they think they can. You know, women were always worried about getting big or bulky, you know, but they, so I had to, at Hayward State, I'm going to kind of switch it. I was asked to do a women's talk about weight training. And that was the first time I ever did anything like that, even this here. But so that was starting to come in. There was really no difference. I had to pick differences about more reps. It used to be that more reps for women and less weight for women and that kind of thing. But as I gradually grew and went to all these different idea conferences and things, I realized that women, their bodies cannot change like a man's unless you enhance it some way. My body started changing just with weights. I love weight training. I mean, I take it over aerobics any day, you know? And that's how my body started changing, by doing weight training.
So did you have like pain before or like issues, and then those became like resolved by weight training, like imbalances?
Oh, there are, I mean, you know, as you go on, mine was more for aesthetics.
Okay.
How I wanted to look, you know, and listening to women, how they wanted to look. You know, so it started off that I just had women in the beginning. You know, they'd see me and they'd say, oh, I would like to look like that or whatever. Yet some people were intimidated of me because I developed muscle, which wasn't bulky muscle. It was just like the picture back there. It was just, you know, really, you know, cutting, you know, just muscle with a lot of definition, you know. And so I started training women. And as it went on, though, you had to learn more and more to keep people interested in training. So the more you learned, the better it was. So that's why I went to all these other conferences and whatever I can, workshops, you know. And by doing physical therapy workshops, when people came with this ache or pain or this hurts or that hurt, oh, I can't do that, I learned how to work with them, you know, and get past that.
And that was more like rehabilitation work.
Well, yeah, you know, in the beginning it is rehabilitation work. Whenever anyone starts working out, okay, there is always something that, oh, I can't do that, or no, that's too difficult, or they don't have the coordination, or, you know, and you have to get them past that mentally and emotionally. That's okay, you can do this. I mean, I've had people cry when they did do something that they thought they never could do.
It was a breakthrough.
It was a breakthrough, and it was like, I was always scared that maybe I did something to that person, you know? So that was really a breakthrough for me. And, but anyway, as I went through the weight training and weight training myself, I started training other people, women that way as well, and got a lot out of it. Though training has to do with eating. And when I used to have consultations, the worst thing they didn't want to hear is about the food. Okay, yeah. The worst thing they wouldn't want to hear. They wanted to change, but they didn't want to change their eating habits. They didn't want to change drinking or chips or those kind of things, you know. But I would bring it up to them, okay? And I knew when to talk about it and then kind of go on to get them into working out. There is a mental thing about that, because if you tell someone right off the bat, you have to change the way you're eating, this and that, people will not really respond to you very well, you know. So once you start training them, and then they start seeing a difference or feeling a difference, then you start asking them to write down the foods that they ate, you know, and what time do they eat, and what makes them feel so good about eating that one thing, okay? And asking them, why are you know, keep on asking them, why are you here? What do you want to achieve, you know? And it's just not one achievement in working out, okay? It's a mental achievement. There are people to this day, and that's why trainers are still working, that cannot do it on their own. It's just, they could do it probably, but they don't have that regulation in their mind to be able to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, with everything I've ever done with training, it's an accountability partner.
That's it. It's accountability, but it's also emotional, okay? It's very emotional for people when they work out. And so you give them accountability by writing down, you know, I would write down what the workout was in a book. I gave everyone like this book, you know, just a plain notebook, and put down what they eat, what we did that day, you know, and, you know, what they do on the weekends. So they had to be accountable to that. Now, most of the time, people don't like to write down those things. They don't, you know, but eventually they did. And then they kind of see what's happening, you know, their body changing, or, okay, I can do without that eating if I want my body to change more, you know, and then get past that emotional thing that they can't do it. Now, this is my experience with people from when it just started. I mean, even with myself, you know, I had to change, you know, to where sometimes I didn't eat. That's not good, because if you don't eat, you don't have the energy. And I know I've had that problem for a very long time. I still do,
So one of the things that you mentioned earlier when we were kind of warming up is that there were differences between how fitness was perceived for women versus men.
Right.
There's a lot of like sexism and bias there.
Right.
And you said you started in the late 80s. You had that friend Jennifer, I believe you said was her name?
Jackie.
Jackie.
Yeah.
And she was training, and that was a kind of revelation for you. And then you started going down this path. And then at some point, you decided you wanted to compete. So what was that like for you, where you went from just like, oh, I'm going to be training people, to I actually want to do some stage work, because you actually placed in a couple of those competitions and went really far.
Right.
And that's like a whole nother level of, as you were talking about, commitment, discipline, and just regimentation.
Well, to tell you the truth, it's like I had women who wanted to do fitness competitions and then natural bodybuilding competitions. So I started training them for it.
Just to be really clear, when you say natural, like they're not using any steroids?
No, nothing. No, nothing. Just be natural as far as, and there is a way to, you have to want it and see it in yourself. That's what you have to do. When I started training women who wanted to do the competition, they'd say, oh, I can never be like that. Like, remember Cara Davison? She says, she always had a big booty, big hips, and she said, oh, I can never do that. And I would just keep on telling her, yes, you can. You have to think about yourself. That's how I started when I started competing. I had to look at myself, and I know I can do this. This is the way I want to look. So it's a lot in your head, believe it or not, because if you don't believe that you can do it, it's not going to happen, okay? So by training them, I started wanting to do it myself. I thought, I can't do this, keep on training people. They go into competitions, they do very well. So I had to go do it myself.
You wanted to get some of it for yourself.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I did. And it was the most awesome experience that I've had.
It was probably really intense, though.
It was really intense. And Troy, my son, he could tell you how intense it was. I used to make him videotape me all the time to see the changes in me, And but it was intense. It was, in those days, it was about not drinking fluid to get really cut. But then they found out that's not the case, okay? But I went through intense workouts, okay? Intense food, I was living on broccoli and chicken.
Yeah, that's pretty tough stuff.
I was living on broccoli and chicken. Yeah. And even when I went out, I would have a piece of grilled chicken made and then have a side of broccoli. People thought I was crazy. I didn't care what they thought anyway. Couldn't drink. I didn't drink at all, not even socially at that time, because, you have to allow your body to be clean as it can,
right.
And yeah, at that time, there was stuff out called DHEA and all those kind of things to enhance. But women rarely run into that. Only the one Olympic bodybuilders, they started really getting into what men do, with the enhancements. But as far as I was really strict on plus I was training other people at the same time, and I was really strict on my diet. I was really intense with my workouts, and really in my mind being, I can do this. I can do the best, And so getting to the point where you go to a show, in the back you're doing push-ups, you're doing bands, you're doing everything to really enhance the tone of your body, you know.
Right before you go on stage.
Yes, and then there's the posing, which people don't realize that really, because you're doing really static holds with the muscles all the time.
So it's intense.
It's very intense. So when you're going to pose and you keep on doing it, it's, I mean, so intense, I can't tell you, but it was such a thrill for me, you know, and to have my clients see me do it was, and women, to know that they don't have to take things in order to do this. And like I was telling you with that Karen Davidson that I have, she changed unbelievable. I think I have pictures of her, you know, from short, stout woman into this really defined. And the one thing I really wanted to do, because I saw it in the guys, they had really toned butts. And I was straight Asians, believe it or not. And I really wanted that. I really wanted those striations, you know. So, you know, so in those days, the body was the same as fitness women, but that fitness women did routines and things. And they, at that time when I was doing bodybuilding, were not allowed to have muscles.
Really?
They had to be really lean, you know, and, you know, really good in fitness moves and routines. Yes, like that. But as it progressed and we had women bodybuilders that didn't take anything, they looked like fitness. You know, the fitness women wanted to look that way, you know. So I wish I had the talent for the fitness, I would have done it. But yeah, so it gradually changed. And it was a crucial when you're getting ready for a fitness or a show. You know, it's really intense, and it's being so clean, being so on routines as far as you know, just holding the moves and things like that. Like I said before, it's very, what did I say it was?
Just the intensity and like having to have that mental fortitude.
Fortitude, and having the intensity to hold static holds, you know.
I think a lot of what really is interesting about this story is that, like, as it progresses, the perspective that people have on women, what they can and cannot do, changes. Obviously, a lot of it has to do with maybe a lot of the men in the industry feeling threatened,
Yes.
feeling insecure about themselves, and then projecting it. What was some of the pushback that you faced in the beginning? Were people like hostile, or
yeah? When in the beginning, when I started, you know, I had muscle and I was really cut, and actually, people would women would look at me like, oh, you know. What is that? How come she has so much muscle? Even guys would give me those looks before it was in that women started building muscle, you know, and getting cut. So it was very hard for me in the beginning because I was proud of myself. I didn't really care. But it was hard because you would get these looks and people talking about you, you know. I used to even ask the kids when they were in school if they were embarrassed of me, you know. Because, you know, I mean, I wore things that were just enhanced myself and when I work out, you know, and luckily my kids were good about it. They said it didn't embarrass them. But it was new. It was new. And then finally, when things started changing, you know, when different books and things started coming out and, you know, shows started coming out, people started changing about that. And then all of a sudden, they wanted what I had. But in the beginning, it was hard for me in training because they felt like they had to get in better shape to work out for me.
Oh, they were that intimidated.
They were, it was hard, you know, and being a personal trainer, you have to make them realize, you know, they're afraid that I'm going to do something where they can't achieve it.
And that's the thing is, like, as a personal trainer, you're supposed to approach them on an individual basis.
Right, right. But a lot of people women would come up to me and go, I mean, but I think I have to be more fit to train with you. I said, no, you don't understand. Personal training is not about that. It's from start to the result, you know. And yeah, so that was a big, and guys were very intimidated by me. You know, I mean, it's not like I was bulky or anything like that, but somehow the male trainers were very intimidated with me because I started training males.
and then they're like, oh, I can't compete with this person.
Well, the males used to, I had to convince the men that I'm not going to train you the same way that I train women. And it's a different mindset with men. It's a total different mindset. So you have to bring yourself to that mindset, okay? You know, women are patient as far as, you know, with putting them in the right stance, the right form. They're very, you know, they will do it, and they're more patient with it. Men, not so much. It's a little harder with men, so you have to approach it a different way, you know? And that was really a challenge for me, you know? But, you know, in all, the challenges that you face, you know, you have to face them. You know, if you don't face them, it doesn't happen. You might feel intimidated inside, but you have to make sure that you go ahead and really believe in what you're doing, and that you have the intelligence and the tenacity to go through with it, you know?
So if there were 5 things that you like really looked for when you were evaluating a client, seeing where they were at, I know when I started working with Troy, one of the things that you talked to me about was like how I stand in my posture.
Mm-hmm.
What are kind of like some of the 5 things that you would be looking at to really help somebody who's on the start of their journey?
Well, number one, I used to take people in front of the mirror, and I used to tell them, you know, I want you to look at yourself, you know. I said, posture comes from the feet up. So I said, now what I want you to do, I would set them in a position, they'd be in front of the mirror. It was, in the beginning, it was like, she only made me go in front of the mirror and look at myself, you know. But I put them in the right stance, and they'd see how much their body changes as they're
getting bigger,
lifted, their body's lifted in a good posture, you know, and not when your shoulders are down here. That's more of like if you're going to hide something or afraid. You don't have to hide yourself, you know. So when you start weight training, you have to start from the bottom up. So you have to give them a stance, give them upper body, you know, posture. You have to make sure that when they start like squatting, I'd have them squat, and then, you know, we'd go over that, how to squat, how to push the hip back and not push their knees forward. And if they hang the body forward, that sets everything off balance, you know. So that was my technique in the beginning, because the one thing I found out when I went to a sports therapy, kinesiologist. That's what they said. They said they started from before it was even popular. I was doing it, and that's why I would have my first session with them in front of a mirror.
And it's always weird, like when you start something, like they're always addressing your form and your foundation. Whenever I've done a sport or I've done art or music with someone, they're always addressing like, how are you holding the brush? How are you holding your instrument?
Right.
How are you like standing on the mat? It's always like that.
Yeah, but after, you know, you can't put too much into it. You have to give people time, you know. And my job was to at the period of time is to go over what they might be, lacking in, or how they're doing something, or could cause knee pain or something else. I would just approach it for a bit and then go on to something else. Because I found that if you keep on harping on one thing when a person's doing one thing, it's not going to make a difference. It's just going to make someone frustrated.
Yes, knowing when to change.
Knowing when to change and look at your client's face and see how they're absorbing what you're saying, So that has a lot to do with it. We were talking about my consultations. Those are things I would look at when we start on a subject, or what they were going for, or I would look at when I start talking about it, and especially food.
Yeah.
Okay, I would see what's happening in their face and their eyes. They lose disinterest at first because it's very hard for people with food, And so that's when you know when to go on. Okay, each time you give them a certain level of, direction, and then after a while you just go, okay, listen, now we're going to go on to this. And more they do it, the more and more it comes into their head. It's so many things that I've told clients, they didn't hear me until they heard it from something else.
Yeah, it's not until you're ready to hear it that you
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And that's being a personal trainer.
It's kind of like being a therapist.
It's a therapist, it's a personal trainer, it's a sports coach, anything. It's just, I had to take, learn steps for myself. I had to learn how to bodybuild. I had to learn how to pose, and how to put my body into those positions and to hold it, So it comes, the more information that came out, so as the industry became more and more popular, and now women were
they were training and they weren't being looked down upon.
Right. And then the men started looking at these women and saying, wow, they look good. They don't have to be skinny pencils,
Right.
They can have their strength and their muscle. Not only men, men approach it on a different aspect. I think their minds work differently,
I think it's like sometimes always boils down to, at the end of the day, like maybe a status thing.
Yes.
And that's always going to be a problem, because you will actually get in your own way if you stay there.
Right.
Because at some point, you have to admit that you don't know what you're doing. You have to seek out a trainer.
Right.
And then you have to have an open mind and hear that feedback. And if you are in that status mindset, when you do give feedback, hey, what are you eating? What are you doing? You're not going to adhere to it. For me, I've always struggled with just having a consistent routine. That's
Right.
probably my biggest weakness. And if I were to really get better at things, I would have to iron everything out and be on a routine, because that's the foundation for everything.
Everything is a routine. The more you do it, the easier it gets, the better it gets, the more self-esteem you gain, and know that you can do this, And it's hard for some people, it's hard. Like I said, there were women that I had to start crying. I thought I did something wrong. But when they were finally able to lift a weight or do something, they were overwhelmed. I don't know, just the emotional side of them. And that's, it's like, if something happened to you when you're younger or in your life that really caused trauma, and you felt weak,
Yeah.
That they overcome that weakness and find that they are truly capable of doing anything what they want to feel.
That's a phenomenal outcome, because that's really like the end results, or the end goal of that result. I want to ask you some questions about some other things. I think you worked with someone named Marie President.
Yes.
She had like a magazine and.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so when I was training in California Athletic, Marie President saw me. She's a doctor. Okay, and she just wanted so much to be the way I was, and so she asked me to train her, say, I want to look like you. I want to be in a competition. I want, and she also had the want, though. It was much easier for her to change than she had the drive. Right. She had the drive. She saw someone, oh, okay, that woman's doing that. I want to be like that. Right. Which, is very flattering for me, yeah, she went on to do a lot of shows, and she did the book, the magazine, okay? And I was in the magazine. I worked with her on the magazine. So that's...
The magazine, I'm going to hand it to you. This was it? Which one?
This one here this is a Canadian when I did my show, okay? This photographer came up to me. These women are not natural.
Right, they're not.
But there's a place in the book where he did, several places where he did put natural bodybuilders.
Right.
These are natural. These, all in here, are natural. These are not enhanced.
And you can see the difference because, like,
well, that's me there. And I had the striations in my butt.
The muscle size is smaller, but the quality is still there.
Yes, yeah. And, it depends on if you look at the shoulders on me, and then you see the shoulders on her, we're about in the same league there, right. And just some women are smaller, but they're still very much defined and really, see, look at her arms. She's smaller. But, yeah, so I was really surprised out of all the women in there, he asked me to come out and take these pictures.
Right, because you feel like you're not in the same league as the people who are using juice.
Right.
But he still respected what you were doing.
Oh, no, that's what he was there for. I guess he went to natural bodybuilding shows and that, And I think there was one of my, so those were that was really a surprising thing for me. But anyway, so that is women's physique world, okay, in Canada.
So you're holding in your hand Curl Magazine.
Curl Magazine.
And that was Marie President.
Marie President, when
she started.
the woman that I started training, and she wanted to get into it. She did awesome shows.
So she was not only training, she actually went out and started a magazine. She was really committed.
Oh, yeah. She was a doctor. She was very
fitness and health
oriented, And so she did have, she had segments in the magazine that tell you how to do certain exercises the correct way, So I worked on those things with her. And like some of these pictures here, this was a client of mine, and I was teaching her she wrote up about how to do shoulder presses and what it was for and that kind of thing. And all these illustrations, and then, how to do workouts. This is me,
That's why
by the way. Well, those are me. But she would have a segment in the magazine every month.
About a different workout.
Different workouts and how to accomplish those workouts, And then she also went to enhanced bodybuilder shows and showed the women. It kind of shows the difference between the women who don't take anything,
Versus
versus the women who do enhance themselves, which I have not against, but it wasn't my,
You got to be careful with it because if you're not, it can kill you, and there's a lot of other problems.
Oh, eventually, as you get older, it'll just, it will get to you.
Yeah.
So there's this bodybuilder. Her name was Corey Everson, and she was big. Corey Everson, and she was, like I said, big, and meaning that she was very popular, and she was in Muscle and Fitness and all those other magazines as well.
Right.
When she stopped training, totally different look.
Oh, she shrank down.
Oh, there was no muscle. There was just, it was kind of like it didn't hold its own. Like normally it will hold its own. Muscle will hold its own.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, once you have the definition, and even if you stop for a while, you get back into it,
It comes back.
it comes back. Muscle has memory.
Right.
But so she would do these magazines and then show the difference between, people who enhance themselves, it would tell you about the downsides of it as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think there's a lot of young people who are getting into that because of social media, and because of social media, there's a lot of people saying stuff.
That's been going on for a while. Even when I started at Dennis Nelson's in the gym, people were talking about it all the time. And I used to know this guy who was from, I think, Lithuania.
Oh.
And he used to get all these enhancements things. There was this one little creatine. It was these little bottles that had liquid on the bottom and the creatine on the top. And so you would shake them and then take it. I tried them, but it's not as creatine,
Right.
like you would take the powder, right? I wasn't opening the top, so I was never getting the creatine.
Oh.
I was just getting the liquid. I had to say that. That was funny. I mean, I bought boxes of these things, and I was not. I wasn't getting it. Yeah.
But I mean, creatine isn't the same thing necessarily.
No, it's not.
as
Because your body doesn't produce as much of that, but so it really helps, But, you could take it or not take it. It's not going to be like a steroid.
Right. That's the
Or
big
DHEA, because they came out with pills for DHEA.
That's like human growth hormone.
Yeah, but you would get it at the like Muscle Max or something like that at one of those places.
They sold it over the counter?
Yeah, these were DHEA, not supposedly known as a steroid, okay? And, of course people try them. I'm going to tell you, I tried them.
Oh.
I took them. I started growing hair out of my lip and going, oh my God. I didn't realize what it was. It was so new, okay?
Right.
And then if you got it into a retail store, it can't be that bad, right?
Right, because it's not regulated.
Right. So, but
I mean, yeah, that's what Benzedrine was originally, and the truckers were using that to just drive for like 2-3 days straight.
well, like a hydroxycut.
Yeah,
Oh man, hydroxycut.
that's like meth, practically.
It practically is. I mean, but it would make you stay up. It would make you work out harder,
So what do you think of the new Ozempic?
Well, okay. I think they've had good studies on it. It's GLP-1. The only difference with the names is that it's the name.
Right, it's like Tylenol. It's like a name for
Right.
a medicine. It's just
Well, now Weight Watchers, all those, Jenny Craig, all those places now, okay, have GLP-1.
oh really?
Yeah,
So everyone's doing that.
yeah.
So if people want to lose weight, let me ask you this. It sounds like it's a combination of exercise and diet, but it also seems like people really struggle with, like, especially people who are overweight, controlling the amount they eat.
Or it's not even control an amount. It's a period after time your body changes, okay? And it changes with men too. That's why they get stomachs and things like that, you know, when they get in their late 40s or early 50s, you know? And it just is how the hormones in your body change, okay? Mine did. I mean, I was up to 162 pounds, you know, and it changed over a period of time.
And for context, you're like 5'4"?
Yeah, that's bad. People never really thought I weighed that much. I mean, I think because I always used weights, that kind of helps your look, you know. But it was tough for me. It was really tough, you know, weighing that much, and it kind of put me down, you know, real down, and I wasn't able to do as much as I would before, you know, I lost the weight.
But
So,
you eventually got back and you got down again.
yeah.
And that's the big thing, is that, like...
But you know what? Should I tell them?
Go ahead.
I took GLP-1 for
did?
3 months. And there's something about the GLP-1 that changes the hormones in your body. Yeah, it changed everything because, I mean, I had a big stomach, I had side things, and it happened over a period of time after I had gotten into a car accident and all these other things had happened to me, and all these surgeries. And so when I took it in the beginning, I mean, I was nauseated and, oh God, and I take a very low dose. But I did it for 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah, and I got down to 132. The only thing I wasn't doing when I was taking it, I stopped really working out.
Because you were exhausted.
It was emancipating, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, Troy? Mm-hmm. But then I start working out again.
So
now,
you got off of it, then your diet kind of balanced out again, and you're eating...
believe it or not, I'm eating more consistently than I did before. Before, I didn't want to eat anything. And I eat a variety of things. Troy cooks, my son Troy cooks for me. So he introduces me a lot. It just makes you eat less, you know, but you don't eat a bunch of junk. It's good food, you know, because you need, you know, fat, protein, carbs, you know, all those things. So,
sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I got one last question about training, and this is probably a tougher one. I think in every cycle of training, everyone experiences a certain amount of regression where they either reach a new level and then they plateau, or they maybe like go, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards. So there's that plateau or that regression. What are ways of breaking out of that? What are ways of dealing with that while you're trying to sort of...
I'll tell you, it's encouragement. You know, when I've trained people and they said, oh, I can't get the shoulders, I can't get this, I said, you just have to keep on doing it. That's all. It's a consistent type of thing. And I thought I couldn't get the muscle back that I had. And I am getting the definition muscle in my arms and everything where I want it, you know. And I'm stronger, you know. And, you know, I'm 74 years old, but, you know, I still can do a decent amount of 30 push-ups and not on my knees.
Right.
So, but, you know, you have highs and you have lows. It's anything in life. When you're learning, okay, you have highs and then you have lows and you have discouragement. It's like how to get past that discouragement, and that's why you have people around, like personal trainers or sports, to say that you'll get better after time. You just have to consistently do it, and it will get better. It does. And the muscle, once you get the muscle's always there. Even if you lay off for a while, you don't seem as muscular. As soon as you start picking up a weight, boom. I have women that my age that I've had for 40 years. This one woman, she used to travel a lot, and she, every time she came back from Europe, her skin was loose, and as soon as she started weight training, boom, the muscle came back.
So it's just about staying positive and just working through it.
Right, yeah.
That's a really important message, I think, because people get discouraged and then they give up completely.
Right, and that's why people go for other things to make, okay, this is not working, so I'm going to go take this to make it work,
right.
But you're destroying your body when you do those types of things, and you have a certain frame and this is what you're going to be, but you can be, especially men, you have testosterone, which is a really good thing to have, but women have it too. I believe I have it. That's why I developed muscle. I'm not kidding. Women have testosterone, and so do men. Have
both sexes have both hormones.
Hormones,
Men and women
exactly.
yeah.
And that's why some men who are really soft or have man boobs or whatever, they don't have enough testosterone in their body.
Right.
And they have to find ways of, doing weights and losing weights, and weight happens, but people get discouraged.
Yeah, that's the psychological aspect. Loretta, I really appreciate your time. This was really cool. You've had a wonderful career. It's like 40 plus years, and you trained. You were in 2 major competitions.
Yeah.
And I think it was your first one you placed.
I placed first.
So you placed first.
I was 50. When was it? 53 when I placed first.
You were 53 when and so that's a really good note to end on, because you were 53 when you placed. That's a huge.
Yeah, and I had 4 kids, and yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
You can still get there.
Right. There's no reason to stop. I mean, you see women now in their 70s and 80s working out in gyms, doing deadlifts, I'm not kidding you. I mean, they're amazing. People are amazing. Our bodies are amazing. When you really put your mind to it, if you say you can't do it, then you'll never be able to do it. It's those things that, the changes that you feel. One minute you feel like you've progressed, and then the next minute you're down, But I really found now I weight train and push myself pretty hard. My son Troy, right? Troy? He'll be down with me. And sometimes I need him. Sometimes I need a trainer or somebody there to convince me that you're not old. I am old. We all know that. But it happens, but you can only be the best you can be, and pretty much I feel happy about that.
Loretta, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Keenan.